The 4th of July in Maple Grove has its own smell, and if you've lived here long enough, you can tell the time of day by it. Before noon, it's sunscreen and wet grass. By 2, it's hot dogs, lighter fluid, and sweet corn sizzling in foil. Toward evening, it's charcoal and that metallic tang that sneaks in just before fireworks crack open the sky. It's the smell of family pictures that look happier than the day really was. It's the smell of pretending. I had my hands under a flimsy aluminum pan, sliding a peach cobbler onto a wobbling folding table at the church lawn, when my daughter leaned in and smiled like she was running for office. She was careful with this smile. Teeth, but not too many teeth, warmth without showing any heat. And she said my name the way she does when she wants the whole town to remember she's a good daughter. "Mom," she said, pitching the words so the people at the lemonade cooler could hear, "are you enjoying that $420,000 settlement?" All the ordinary sounds, kids yelling near the dunk tank, Pastor Ron laughing from his belly, the crackle of the grill, moved away from me like I was suddenly underwater. Her words didn't make sense at first. They were a puzzle dumped on the table, all edges and no picture. Then the pieces slid together. $420,000, settlement, enjoying. I looked at Sabrina, my only daughter, the one I sewed Halloween costumes for out of old curtains. I looked at her careful eyeliner and her glossy ponytail and the gold necklace I'd never in my life bought for myself, and my throat went tight. "What settlement?" I asked. My voice sounded like it belonged to a smaller woman who lived somewhere inside my chest, a woman who had learned to speak softly enough to pass through rooms without waking anyone's temper. The couple from our pew who always bring the baked beans paused mid-chew. My son-in-law, Adam, coughed on his bratwurst and smacked his chest once like that would fix anything. Kids still ran, flags still moved on the breeze, but right around us, air thinned out. Sabrina didn't even blink. She said, "From Dad's accident," she said, still smiling. She had perfected that mild, competent tone she uses at PTA meetings and HOA complaints. "You know, the money. I'm just glad you're comfortable, Mom. We all worry." Comfortable. That word tapped something hard behind my ribs and woke it up. Comfortable had not been the cupboard I opened for dinner last Thursday. Comfortable had not been the cashier asking if I had a loyalty card while I examined my coins like they were medicine. Comfortable was not the way I cut dryer sheets in half to last long or poured coffee so weak you could see the bottom of the mug through it. At my elbow, my little sister Marla set down a Tupperware of potato salad like she was placing evidence on a table. She didn't look at me first. She studied Sabrina the way she used to stare down overdue invoices when she ran books for a roofing company. Chin lifted, eyes sharp, unimpressed with stories that didn't balance. "Say that again," Marla said, not loud but made of steel. Sabrina switched the smile off and on again. "I just meant how blessed we are that Mom doesn't have to worry about money." She patted my forearm without actually touching it. "That kind of peace is priceless." Marla slid her sunglasses up to her hair and leaned in close so all that politeness burned off. "What settlement, Sabrina?" The fireworks didn't start until dark, but I swear I saw a spark, just a tiny one, in Sabrina's eyes. Annoyance. Maybe fear. Maybe the moment she realized her sentence couldn't be stuffed back into her mouth. "We should not be discussing private family business in public." "Then don't," Marla said. "Name the attorney." "Nate," I said before Sabrina could answer. "Nate Brooks. He gave us his card at the funeral." Adam cleared his throat, which is what some men do when they're trying to make a sound that stalls time. "Babe, let's not..." Marla was already thumbing her phone. She has the speed dial of a woman who collects receipts and names. "Then let's call him," she said, and pressed the button so we could all hear the ring. The bakery lady set down cupcakes on our table without looking at us. Pastor Ron turned our way and then decided to turn back. People know the smell of a fight the way horses smell rain. 3 rings. Then a voice that I remembered as kind in a way that didn't try too hard. "It's Brooks and Hart legal," it said. "This is Marla Doyle," Marla said. "I'm with my sister Ruth Ellison, widow of Walter Ellison. My niece just referenced a settlement my sister apparently never saw. Is Mr. Brooks available to verify?" A pause, big enough to hold a truth. Paper shuffled. The voice changed. "This is Nate. Ruth, are you with them?" "I'm here," I said, though I felt like I'd stepped out of my body and was watching myself hold a flimsy paper plate that wanted to fold under the weight of baked beans. "Yes," he said. "There was a settlement last August, $420,000, structured for Ruth's benefit. I was told family was handling disbursements." "By who?" Marla asked. Another pause. I pictured his office, the beige rug, the window with the view of the courthouse brick. "By your daughter, Sabrina Adams," he said, finally, careful with every syllable. "Acting under a limited power of attorney, filed the week after the funeral."
"I never signed that," I said. And in that moment, something old in me sat up. Not something angry, something patient that had been waiting behind my obedience for years. Nate's voice lowered, and I heard the difference. A good man delivering bad news who wasn't going to decorate it. "Ruth, come to my office Monday morning. We need to speak privately." Sabrina reached for my wrist, as if claiming me could undo the sound of his words. I took one step back. Across the lawn, a 4th grader finally hit the dunk tank lever, and the splash sounded like a gavel. I didn't taste the food that night. Adam tried to tell jokes and told none. My grandkids asked for money for the snack booth without looking me in the eye. Marla stayed close, a narrow body of firm muscle and older sister energy wrapped in a woman who isn't older than me at all, but has never hesitated to act like it. When the fireworks began and everybody tipped their faces to the sky, I watched Sabrina instead. She oohed at explosions shaped like chrysanthemums and wooed at the ones that crackle before they bloom. Her face lifted and fell in light. For a second, she looked 8 again, stunned by sparkles. For a second, I was the woman I used to be. Pie baker, budget stretcher, problem swallower, explainer of thunder. On the drive back to Willow Trace, the senior complex that names its buildings after trees to make them feel friendly, I watched porch lights swing. Marla drove like she always does. Eyes steady, one hand on the wheel, one hand ready to catch whatever falls. I looked out at Maple Grove and saw it the way you see a person you finally know after you've seen their text to someone else. Not a stranger, just someone you can't pretend about anymore. "Do you have any paperwork?" Marla asked. "I have a cookbook," I said. And in the cookbook there are 2 pieces of mail that felt too heavy to throw away. "What do they say?" "One is from Maple Harbor Investments, a 1099, for interest, $2,187. The other is from the animal shelter, thanking me for a $25,000 donation to the Ruth Ellison Charitable Fund, and inviting me to a gala." "You don't even wear heels," she said. "I don't even own them," I said. We didn't laugh. Sometimes humor is a reflex. Sometimes it's a bruise. On Sunday night, I ironed the blouse I wear to funerals and church. On Monday morning, I put it on anyway. Some days your body knows how serious the day is, and my hands buttoned tiny white buttons as if they had a schedule they respected. Nate's office looks like exactly what you want a lawyer's office in a Midwestern town to look like if you're the person who needs help. Not too big, not too slick, walls the color of oatmeal, a framed diploma that is neither humble brag nor brag, 2 chairs that don't squeak when you sit in them, 1 sofa for the days when sitting in a chair would break a person in half. He greeted us like he remembered what grief does to simple things. I should have insisted you came in alone 5 minutes after the funeral. I believed your daughter that all funds were being handled for your benefit. That is my mistake. He spread papers on the table, the way a careful father spreads out a puzzle so a child can see that all the edges exist. He showed me a document titled Ellison versus Warren Utilities. He showed me the union's aggressive letter, the settlement that arrived quietly in August, the 8 pages that spelled out structured distribution for the benefit of the widow. He did not speed up or slow down for the parts that hurt. When I had to put my hand on the table and breathe a few slow breaths, he turned his face to the window and gave me the dignity of not staring at my pain like it was a show. Then he slid over bank statements. Names I knew before I knew them. Home and Hearth Renovations, Great Lakes Marina, Sageleaf Academy. Adams LLC, their tuition, their boat, their kitchen counters that looked like magazine pages. How did she get the power of attorney? I asked. The words tasted like cardboard. Chewable, but designed to be swallowed without nutrients. He placed a page on top. Limited power of attorney notarized by Wendy Kepler, who I assume works in your daughter's office. It cites temporary incapacity due to grief. Ruth, did you sign anything you didn't understand? I looked at my hands. They looked like my mother's hands. They were clean and used and lined with small stories. They remembered how to braid, and how to hold a feverish child, and how to scrub a bathtub that never looked clean again, and how to pick up a pen, and how to set it down. I signed where my child put tabs. He nodded. Not the nod of a man who approves. The nod of a man who has watched this movie too many times. Okay. Options.
He didn't make them fancy. Civil action for breach of fiduciary duty and conversion. That means we sue to get your money back, and damages for what they took and the time you lived without it. A criminal complaint for elder financial abuse. We involve the county sheriff. We also notify Adult Protective Services, who take this very seriously in Greene County. Or we try to settle with the confession of judgment, sale of assets, and a payment plan with teeth. The third route is faster and keeps things out of the paper. The first 2 are justice and a longer road. The choice is yours. My sister's hand found mine. She doesn't squeeze hard. She squeezes like a metronome, steady, strong, reminding me that there's a rhythm to breath. I thought of the night at the church lawn, of the word comfortable, of my kitchen light over instant coffee that tasted like nothing, and high blood pressure pills I did not pick up, and the way I would stare at the shelf with peaches and walk away because even on sale they felt like a luxury for some other woman. I thought of my husband, Walt, and the way his laugh filled a room like a lamp. I thought of his hands, big and careful, the way he could fix anything that hummed or flickered, and the single thing he couldn't fix, which was being called up to work on a line that should have been tagged dead and wasn't. We start, I said. We start today. The courthouse conference room had the personality of an unbuttered cracker, beige on beige, carpet that turns every footstep into an apology, the kind of place where big things happen very quietly. We were on time. Of course we were. Some people are raised on clocks they never learned to ignore. Sabrina and Adam came in 8 minutes late, all the ways to be late written on their faces: pride, fear, defiance, a little hope that the mother they know will make it easy. Sabrina did not look at me. She sat, crossed her legs in a careful angle, and stared at the edge of the table like she saw a future there that didn't involve this moment. Nate did not perform outrage. He read from paper like a man reading an inventory of a house before a sale. We have bank records showing transfers from the Ellison Settlement Account to Home and Hearth Renovations, LLC, Great Lakes Marina, Sage Leaf Academy, and your personal mortgage and credit card accounts. We have a limited power of attorney filed with the county. We also have Ruth's signatures from the DMV and bank and the notarized signature on this POA. The variance is, to a layman's eye, significant. Sabrina turned her head to me. Her mouth trembled. A long time ago, that tremble meant she was about to cry because she'd dropped her ice cream. Today it meant calculation. "Mom, we didn't steal from you. We managed it. You've never been good with money." Marla let out a sound that could have been a laugh in a different room. "She sent you to college on jars labeled with the months, paid in tips and coupons. She's fine with money. She just didn't think she had a right to it." Adam leaned forward, elbows on knees, hands out, like he was guiding an airplane to a gate. "It was all for the family. We were putting a rental above the garage so you could move in. We were planning is not paying. Intentions are not distributions." I looked at Sabrina and did not look away. I said, "You made me small, so it would feel normal to take from me. You didn't do it on purpose at first, I know that, but then you liked the feeling. You liked being the one who knew things. You liked me thanking you for the groceries you bought with my own money." Sabrina dropped her eyes. In another movie, this would be the part where she breaks, throws herself across the table and begs. In this one, she chose stillness. Nate placed a typed document in front of them and lined a pen on top. He said 2 paths. We file civil today and notify Adult Protective Services and the sheriff by end of business. Or you sign a confession of judgment now. You will list the lake cabin within 30 days, put the boat and second SUV on the market this week, and transfer all liquid balances from Home and Hearth Renovations and personal accounts into a new account in Ruth's name only, which I will administer for her at her direction. You will make monthly payments of $2,000 for 10 years at 5% interest. If you miss one payment, we execute immediately on the confession of judgment without another meeting. In addition, you will disclose to your children what happened, with Ruth present, in age-appropriate language within 2 weeks. This is not optional. You did this in secret. You will tell the truth out loud. Adam shook his head like a man trying to clear water out of his ears. It came out like a whine. I didn't think I had it in me to lose respect I already lost, but it turns out there's always a basement under the floor you thought you hit. You already did, Marla said. Sabrina's hand hovered. She looked at me, finally. Mom, will you ever forgive me? I didn't reach for the right answer. I let the true one come out, and it surprised us both. I don't know. Forgiveness is a door I might open. Trust is the house you burn down. She signed. Adam signed. Walking out of that beige room into summer air, I felt something in me stretch. Not crack. Stretch. There are muscles you forget you have until you use them, and then the next day you feel them all at once and think, oh, you've been here the whole time. 8 months later, I drink real coffee. I learned the difference between cheap and good by tasting both long enough to know it in my bones. My place is still at Willow Trace, but I'm in a co-op unit now that looks west over maple trees. In the afternoon, the light lays down across my living room like a cat. I bought a used Civics whose AC blows cold enough to make my knuckles ache, and a radio that plays the old country songs where the women finally say no.
On Fridays, I host Second Saturday Coffee and Contracts in the community room because the flyer looked better when we called it something that didn't sound like homework. 10, sometimes 12 widows show up. We talk about what power of attorney really means. We practice saying, "I'll have my attorney look at that." We keep a list on the whiteboard of words that scare us, and then we write what they really mean beside them. Beneficiary is the person you love. Confession of judgment is a promise with a hammer. Elder abuse is a crime, not a misunderstanding. We bring donuts. We speak each other's names. We make jokes about the cheap coffee. We look at each other's faces and then look at the table when the faces get too raw to look at more. Sabrina's payment arrives on the first business day of each month. Sometimes there's a note on pink stationery with gold dots around the border. The notes say things like, "I'm working on myself," and "You'll see." There is apology in them the way there is sugar in diet soda. Present, not nourishing. We talk on birthdays and at Easter. I love her with a hard love now, a love with a fence. It has a gate that opens when she shows up with truth. It does not swing for excuses. Adam sends nothing. The kids text me homework questions because I became useful again when I became a person who could answer things and not just a person who brings brownies. They sidestep the story the way teenagers step around a sleeping dog. It will wake up when it wants to. The cabin sold. The boat went first because someone in this county will always buy a boat the minute you put a for sale sign on it, and men like Adam have friends whose eyes light at the word must. The second SUV sat on the lot under a flapping string of red, white, and blue triangles for 6 weeks. Every time I drove past the dealership, I felt my shoulders loosen a fraction more. I tithed to the church. I send a check to the animal shelter in my own handwriting, not because I believe a donation letter with my name on it proves something, but because I like the way my name looks on the bottom of a check I wrote without asking someone if it was wise. Loretta from 2B sits with me at Dot's Diner on Tuesdays. We split pie. She always orders lemon meringue and reminds me a person needs tart now and then to keep her awake. I buy the coffee because paying the bill answered a question I didn't know I was still asking. Sometimes I think about the moment I said, "we start." People love a turning point. They like the clean lines, the before, the after, the moment a woman found her spine and it lit up like a match. Mine wasn't like that. It was small things, a trail of breadcrumbs I ignored until they started sticking to my shoes. The 1099 that looked like a prank until it didn't, the glossy letter with my name and the word charitable beside it when I was counting out quarters for laundry. The way Sabrina's voice sounded on the phone the night she called and asked if I could sign one more form because "we're tying up loose ends, Mom, and we want to protect you." The way Adam always answered when I asked for a copy of something with a sentence that began with "don't worry." People like to say he's family when they want you to leave the door unlocked. People like to say "trust me" when they want the lights off. When I look back now, there are other clues. The way Sabrina's house swallowed our holidays like a hotel you can't quite afford. Her kitchen with the magazine counters and the big sink that always sounded surprised when I put a plate into it. The pantry that looked like a grocery store, and the way I would hover there, hand over a box of crackers I liked, not taking one because I didn't want to seem greedy. The way my grandson looked at me like I was a complication he had to manage. The way my granddaughter hugged me with one arm and then dropped back into her screen like I was a buffering video.
I tell the women at Second Saturday that the most dangerous stories are the ones we tell ourselves to make someone else look better. I told myself I was a burden. I told myself my kids were busy. I told myself not to ask for too much. I told myself I didn't need peaches this week. I told myself the ache in my knees was too small for the doctor. I told myself I was fine until the word fine felt like sand in my mouth. Sometimes after the meeting, I sit in my car and say my name out loud to remember it belongs to me. Ruth. It's plain as toast, and I love it for that. Walt loved it too. He said it sounded like a woman who knows the difference between a thing that's broken and a thing that's just used. When I say it out loud, I hear doors opening. The front door of a house you own, the buzzer on an apartment the landlord finally fixes, the click of a glove compartment where you keep your registration and your insurance because they're yours, the little noises of a life that fits you. A year to the day after the church lawn, I went early to set peach cobbler down before the tables filled. The sky was bright and so clean it looked polished. Kids tested the dunk tank before anybody had $1 to throw. Pastor Ron waved and said my name twice, the way you say it to someone who used to be a shadow at the edge of the room and is now sitting in the front pew with a pen in her purse. I lined up the desserts in neat rows, which is my favorite way to look at sweetness. I laid a small card beside my cobbler. It said, Ruth, in my own hand, not to claim credit, to claim myself. Sabrina came late. She walked toward me with that too perfect smile turned down a few notches. She said, "Hi, Mom," and she let her voice be quiet enough for it to sound like Truth's cousin. "Can I help with plates?" I said yes. She handed plates to people and she didn't announce anything. When she reached me, she held a plate between us like an offering. "Payment goes out tomorrow," she said. "I know," I said. "I'm applying for a job, a real one, not just helping Adam with the LLC, benefits, HR. I haven't had a supervisor in a long time." "Sometimes it's good to be supervised," I said. "It puts a fence around other people's worst ideas." She huffed a breath that wasn't a laugh and wasn't not a laugh. "The kids want to know if they can come by your place Saturday." "The door is open," I said. "If they want to talk about anything, the door is open for that too." She nodded. She didn't cry. "We both have less use for that kind of water now." She turned and passed napkins down the line, and I felt something unspool in my chest. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a willingness to see what time can do with honest work. That afternoon, after the smoke cleared and the flags drooped and the last toddler cried himself to sleep under a picnic table, I took the long way home through town. I drove past the county clerk's office and the courthouse and Dot's Diner and the animal shelter with the paw print sign. I drove down my old street where the house is gone, sold to pay debts that didn't exist, and then for a settlement I didn't see. I parked for a minute across from the space where our living room used to be and let memory place furniture in the air. Walt's recliner by the window. The thrift store rug I pretended was hideous on purpose. The dent in the wall from the time the kids were playing soccer inside because it was raining and I said no balls in the house and then laughed when the ball made a soft thwomp and left a perfect circle like a stamp. In my head, the whole place glowed with the kind of warmth you can't make with money. Walt's laugh still lived there. It lives everywhere I'm brave enough to let it. Back at Willow Trace, I watered my spider plant and overwatered it like I always do and apologized out loud because it makes me feel better to say I'm sorry to a living thing. I made a cup of real coffee and let the smell fill my small kitchen. I called Loretta and asked if she wanted pie on Tuesday. She said lemon meringue, obviously, because a person needs tart. She said, obviously. And I smiled because the rightness of small things can sound like a hymn. I sat on my balcony while the sun went down and the maple trees turned to black lace. The radio from someone's car floated up the way music floats when a town is small and the air is still. The lyrics were about a woman who stays. I thought about staying. I thought about leaving. I thought about the third thing that isn't either. It took me 75 years to learn it. You can stay in a place and leave the version of yourself that everybody likes to use. You can leave a story and keep your name. Strength, it turns out, is not always loud. Sometimes strength sounds like a woman saying no once and then not having to raise her voice again. Freedom is not fireworks. Fireworks are loud and over fast and leave smoke in your hair. Freedom sits with you at breakfast and asks about your plans and actually listens to the answer. Freedom doesn't rush you. It sets your mug on a coaster and says, take your time. The moral, if there is one, is simple enough to fit inside a breath. Love without boundaries is not love. It's permission. And you don't need permission to protect your own life. You can be kind and still say enough. You can be generous and still keep what was never anyone else's to spend. You can be a mother and still be a person. If you're listening to this and you feel something sting behind your ribs like a small bird waking up, I hope you let it sing. I hope you collect your paper. I hope you find a Nate who reads quietly, and a Marla who squeezes your hand like a rhythm, and a Loretta who orders lemon meringue and calls tart necessary. I hope you write your name on a little card and set it beside your cobbler and feel the rightness of claiming it. Once, not so long ago, I thought dignity was a luxury for women with money. I thought peace was for people with bigger houses and more children visiting. I thought strength belonged to the loud or the tall or the kind of woman who never learned to apologize for taking up space. I was wrong. Dignity is a habit. Peace is a practice. Strength is what you build when you stop swallowing what poisons you. I still count coins sometimes just to feel the weight of them. Old habits hang around when they're useful. I still cut dryer sheets in half because it feels smart, and waste makes me itchy. But I buy peaches now and don't apologize to anyone, not even the girl at the checkout who calls me ma'am like it should shame me. I stop by the animal shelter and watch the dogs in the play yard and write a check that is small enough to be honest and big enough to be felt. I send it in my own name, and I hold the pen like it's a key. On Saturday, my grandkids came to the co-op. They tracked grass on my carpet and flopped on my couch like it belonged to them. They told me about public school. They complained about the cafeteria pizza and bragged about a teacher who says they can call her Miss T and means it. They asked me if I was mad. I told them mad as a weather that blows through. What I am is a climate. I told them that love means telling the truth when you'd rather not. I told them their mom is doing hard things. I told them we'll eat pie after dinner. Real pie, not the cheap kind. They laughed and shouted, "Real pie!" like it was a secret password, and it might be. They asked for a story about their grandpa, and I told them the one about the time the washing machine gave up spinning, and he took it apart on the kitchen floor like it was a set of blocks, and then put it back together, and it worked so well the towels were dry before I got them on the line. They asked if he was a superhero. I said he was a man who showed up. They nodded like they understood something they couldn't name yet. When they left, Sabrina stood in my doorway with her keys in her hand and looked at my little kitchen and my spider plant and me. "You look good here," she said. "I am good here," I said. She turned her keys over in her fingers, the way a person turns over a thought before they say it. I thought protecting you meant deciding for you. It doesn't, I said. I know, she said. I didn't before. Knowing is work. It isn't a moment. It's a practice. Will you tell me when I get it wrong? She asked. Yes, I said. Not with a shout, with a sentence. She laughed then, a real laugh, not the curated one she uses on committees. You're scarier like this, she said. Good, I said. Fear has a place. When she hugged me, I felt her ribs under her smooth blouse. I felt her breath stutter. I felt the little girl who loved sparkles and the teenager who rolled her eyes and the woman who figured out how to sign my name and live with it. I held her and didn't hold her long. Someone taught me late how to let go. After they drove away, I stood on my balcony with my mug. The sun slid down behind the maples and left a stripe of pink that looked painted on. My radio found an old song about starting over and let it play. I practiced my name under my breath and set it down on the air like a seed. Ruth. I'm Ruth. I know what my life costs and what it's worth. I keep my receipts. I tip well. I answer the phone. I open the door when people knock and ask them their business. I bake a cobbler that goes first off the table, and I set a card beside it so anyone who needs to learn can read the name and practice saying it out loud. I say mine until it feels like home. And when the 4th comes around next year and the smell of charcoal and sweet corn rises, I'll slide my pan onto that same shaky table. If someone asks me if I'm enjoying the settlement, I'll say I'm enjoying my coffee. I'll say I'm enjoying my rent being paid on the 1st without my stomach knotting. I'll say I'm enjoying boundaries. I'll say I'm enjoying not apologizing for peaches. I'll say I'm enjoying what my husband worked for, what my hands have earned, what my name has on it because it is mine. That will be the end of it. Not with fireworks, with a woman taking a bite of her own pie and smiling because it tastes exactly like it should.